should recommend that one.
I will share that
Yeah.
along with Sir Duke on it.
Oh, Sir Duke is on there. Yeah.
Love that song too. All right, let's do this. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off.
It's already on. It's going right now.
The Band-Aid's on.
Matt and Chris.
K-Pasta, brother.
Okay, Paso.
Howdy.
Hey,
What's
buddy.
going on?
Living the dream.
If you were going to recommend me a song right now, what would it be?
Well,
Not Stevie Wonder, though. What else have you been listening to?
Can I consult?
Yeah, of course.
Consult your
Have
Spotify.
you guys ever listened to Bay Ledges?
Bay Ledges?
Yeah.
The name of the artist?
Yeah.
Like, it is just some bangers.
Bay Ledges?
It's
Yeah.
Bay Ledges.
it's this one is good. Here, I forgot about these guys.
Yeah,
Straight
there's-
Jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did I send you this song? Or
Dude, that's a sick song.
Oh, that's
Taj
cool.
Mahal Queen Bee is a really good song. I've been liking like Toy Story sounding songs.
Toy Story sounding
You know, it's
song?
like doo 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 doo.
Just pull this thing up to you.
I don't know.
Newman, the guy that makes them all. Yeah, Short People.
Short people ain't got nothing at all.
No, I don't know that.
That's the
but-
guy that I think he wrote.
Yeah,
all
he wrote the Toy Story song.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
you got a friend in me.
Exactly.
Got a friend? Yep.
That's a banger.
This one I've been listening to is by Hiatus Coyote. Dude, this song is good. I've been playing this a shitload of times.
Yeah, are they new?
I don't think so. They got like 20 million viewers or something. Listeners, I mean.
20 million viewers, just people just looking at.
1.2 million monthly listeners. So no, I don't think they're all that new. Yeah, I don't think they're that new, Matt. Fucking
Or the
idiot.
Bahamas. I'm sure you guys listen to the Bahamas.
No, who's that?
Shut up.
No,
No.
You've got to. It's, I don't know. It's like
send
a good
me
vibe.
some links.
Shall I do it now?
Just point this thing at like right towards your mouth, and you can like move it around too.
I move a lot when I talk.
Okay, just move the mic
Just
with you.
all you got to do is stay extremely still, and you'll be totally fine.
Fix your posture, Ab.
Sit
Fix
up
your
straight.
fucking posture.
Okay.
So Abby, who are you?
Psych.
Who are Abi Fisher?
I is Abi Fisher.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
Perfect.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're all getting clawed up right now. So
Happy to be here. Cheers.
cheers.
I'm gonna do a little
Matt's
tea.
got
I'm gonna do a little White
5
Claw, a little water.
beverages.
Really
Little water.
dehydrated. I walked around a lot today, so
Professional
I really
walker.
don't like White Claw that much.
And I feel like
chemicals.
this is an unpopular opinion, but grapefruit is one of the worst flavors.
I'll be the judge.
tastes-
I don't think that's that unpopular.
Really? I feel like people love grapefruit.
No, not really that good.
Yeah.
No,
I like
it's not.
grapefruit.
Try
stuff,
black
but-
cherry. It's the best.
I've had that one. It's good.
So,
So, Ab, you've been WFFing, working from Florida,
Yep.
kind of, for on and off for like a year.
a year exact. Like,
Dude, that's nuts.
it's crazy. Do you realize that I flew here October 4th of last year? Was supposed to be here for 4 days, and then fast forward a year, and I'm still here traveling out of a
awesome.
backpack.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And you lived with us for like a month plus.
Oh, like 4 months.
Yeah, it was at least 2. Was it? No, it wasn't 4. It was like 2 months.
Yeah. I don't know. 2 or 3.
That was fun. It was a good time.
Oh, I miss that old house.
Yeah, that was a good time.
Yeah.
So what prompted you to start working from down here? Just like you came down and then you just didn't leave?
We were supposed to be here, me and my roommate Kenzie, for 4 days, literally, because I missed my original flight to come down, which is really ironic now looking back.
So funny.
And I brought,
did?
yeah, I slept through it. I slept through it. And then, so I flew out the next day, and because we wanted to meet Lily. We hadn't met Lily yet. And she,
Oh, that's why you guys came down initially.
yeah. And then we're like, Chicago is completely shut down. It's getting freezing. Nothing is going on there. Like, everybody's leaving the city because it's a ghost town. Like, sure, Jenny, you can convince us to
I'm sure it wasn't hard.
stay. Yeah. No. And I mean, we just continued. We basically stayed until Thanksgiving, and then I came back with my family for Christmas, and then have left like here and there, spent the summer in Chicago. But I feel like all of COVID, ever since we could work from home, like I was trying to get out of the city as much as I could. Like spent a month in Phoenix, went to Austin, went to Tulum, went to Scottsdale, and then just living that nomad life.
I forget that you've been all over the place.
I mean, it's like I was thinking about this, and now going back to work seems so like horrible.
Like going back into
the office, yeah.
Yeah.
Because like it's sad. Like COVID is a tragic thing. Like obviously it is a horrible global pandemic, but the amount of stuff that I've been able to do because I'm working from home like has opened my eyes to so much of more about the world. Like being able to live in Scottsdale for a month. Like I would have never, that was another case where I was supposed to be there for a week and then I ended up staying. Seems to be a theme.
Yeah.
Like of all of the tragedies that are happening because of it, like there are also people that are benefiting and getting to understand more about the world and see stuff that they never would be able to because of it, which like sounds wrong and kind of makes me feel guilty, but has been true for my life. Like
that's the flip side of all this stuff is like it did drastically change like the whole world and the way that people do things. And I mean, most of our country is service, like I wouldn't say most, but a good chunk of our country is like service-based jobs that you don't necessarily have to be like physically present for.
Right.
You know? So like what was it like working from all these different places? Like how did you actually manage that? Or
so I remember being in the office. I had just started at my company a month prior to COVID hitting, and
perfect time.
Ideal. And we like get the news like, oh, we got to go home. We're like, oh, I'm like leaving my stuff there. I didn't even take my keyboard, left the mouse. Like we'll be back in like a week or two. Fast forward well over a year now. And I think at first like we were also weirded out by the fact that we had so much freedom. Like we were living in a tiny 900 square foot 3-bedroom apartment, us 3 girls that all work in sales. And it's like,
that must have been fun.
Yeah, making our cold call.
Shut the fuck up.
Beating on the wall, like, I have a call. But I mean, you adjust, of course.
Yeah.
Like you learn how to make it your new normal. But I think there was definitely a period like professionally where I struggled because and not necessarily struggled, but like it was an adjustment period.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's been really interesting about traveling is seeing how COVID is perceived by different cities or towns. Like going from someplace like Chicago where it's super liberal. Like I remember being back there after being in Florida for a few months, and I was walking down the street outside. Florida has been open for what, like 6+ months?
Yeah,
like
the whole time.
Pretty much
fully open. I'm talking no mask. And some lady starts screaming at me like, "Put your mask on." I'm just like walking to Starbucks mid-morning. I'm like, what? This is night and day. But
well, I hope she showed you a lesson.
Did you put your mask on?
I think I just sped up. Honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
But like the difference in Florida and Chicago and being like spending half a year in both places while we're in the midst of this pandemic was like, damn.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the differences, like and even being down here and then going on 2 different road trips throughout this thing. So we went on one last September, like going to Asheville in North Carolina. Like they were like, basically like if you're not wearing a mask at all times, you're a fucking piece of shit and we don't care if you die. And then you go to the mountains in Georgia and it's like it doesn't even exist up there. They're like, yeah, we're doing spacing at the restaurant, but you know, the line out front's getting pretty full, so we're just gonna have everybody kind of just sit in the regular seats at the restaurant and just fill out the spaces.
They're probably just doing it just for protocol, so somebody would come in there like, oh, at least they're trying to.
Yeah, something like that.
Well-
But it is kind of crazy how different all these places look at it.
It's night and day. Like,
Yeah. What was
even now-
Scottsdale like?
completely open. So ironically, we booked these tickets to go to Scottsdale because we knew it was one of the few places that were open. And this was last June, like mid-June, right before cases, like we booked the tickets and then cases in Scottsdale like skyrocketed. It was like the center of all things, like COVID.
Yeah.
Absolutely exploding. But we were like, okay, well, we're going there. There was like 15 of us and every single one of us got COVID.
Really?
There was no laws. There was no, like, every single one of us got COVID.
Oh, no.
And so after we left, of course, this is when I then went to Key West for my little sister's birthday.
Oh, yeah.
And then to Fort Myers, like, totally oblivious, thinking, like, it'll be fine, and not even knowing that the cases had skyrocketed in Scottsdale. Like, what a fool.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely a lot of lessons in that. But, I mean, there was just no laws around COVID really there at the time, which changed quickly after, and the whole city, like, shut down.
Really? Like
the
after
week
you got-
after we left,
Okay.
which, crazy.
How did you end up there for a month?
I went there twice. So I visited a friend that lives out there, and I bought round trip tickets for $30.
Holy shit.
$30 from Chicago to Phoenix. And then I was like, this was only $30. Like, I'm not going back yet. At least, even if everything's shut down here, we can go hiking. Like, there's things to do
Yeah.
outside, which is not the case in Chicago. So I ended up staying.
Yeah.
Safe to say.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What was Chicago like during all this? I mean, what was it like living in a major city? Especially like even at the beginning of COVID, like the beginning, kind of like the middle, like let's say last year.
Yeah.
What was it like?
I think at the beginning, like, again, none of us really understood the
Yeah, sure.
magnitude of what was happening. But eventually, like, we're living in a tiny apartment. So you literally roll over to your desk that I just had to purchase because it wasn't in my room before, start like working. It's freezing outside. It's dark before you're finished working. So like you walk to the kitchen, maybe you'll go get groceries and freeze if you don't get Instacart, like, and then you just roll over, go back to bed. Like, thank God we met a group of guys that we ended up traveling with and like doing all, keeping ourselves like active and I don't know, social during this time.
Sure.
But for so many people that COVID was like actually a threat to, or people that didn't have roommates, or, like there was not any sort of social aspect to the city outside of your apartment or the people that you knew that you were quarantining with, if that was the route you took. Like,
For sure.
so I'm so grateful that I had those people, but for those that don't have like a close circle or live alone, like that would have been brutal.
Yeah, well, it's a real thing too. The people like falling into depression and these things, and like if you think about it, up north in the Midwest, especially, it gets dark early in the winter and it's cold, and you don't want to do anything as it is, and then you get trapped up in your place. Yeah,
That's just lonely.
yeah,
It's like you become a robot
yeah.
towards life because there's nowhere to go, like, period. So that's why, and I think that there's mixed feelings about traveling during COVID, especially at the beginning half. But I think I'm so grateful that I got those experiences because it has like kept me level.
Yeah.
Which, like, I'm somebody that needs to be social, that likes to go into an office, that, and I don't know how, I know Florida was shut down for a little while, but I think to a total different extent and a much shorter period. Like,
Compared to what like Indiana, the Chicago area was, we weren't even shut down.
yeah,
Yeah, you had to throw on your mask to go into Publix, and that was it.
insane.
Yeah.
I think what made it even crazier though was like, okay, March, the last weekend we were out or like could go anywhere was St. Patrick's Day. And then fast forward to this past June is when we could like go to a bar past or restaurant anywhere past, I think it was like 11. That's a long time.
Still up until this June?
This June, yeah. But in that time frame, there was an election that was really controversial. There was looting, like right across the street from our house. I mean, all of this controversy with the vaccine and with media and political turmoil, like so much noise in the city that I mean was really indescribable. Like I felt like I was like living out history or experiencing something that I could have never imagined.
Didn't you, because you guys had lived in like high rise across from, isn't it a 7-Eleven?
Yeah.
And then you say you guys were down there, or were you close to it, and then that's when the looting started?
Yeah.
People were running in there just breaking stuff and just
Crazy.
Yeah.
So we were at our friends, we had a picnic, like, because that was what we were limited to. It was outside, whatever.
COVID picnic.
And then we went, truly, then we went to our friend Dan's. And next thing you know, it's like probably 8 o'clock at night, and our phones start going wild, like, you know, like the Amber Alert sound. And it's like, stay inside, not 9 o'clock curfew. I don't remember, 9 o'clock curfew.
Sure.
Whatever you do, don't leave where you are. Like, the city shut down. And we're like, what do you mean the city shut down? So, of course, we stay. Like, we're not going to go anywhere. We're getting these alerts. Eventually, like, there was probably like 10, 15 of us at Dan's. We're like, we got to go home. It's like late, like 2 a.m. And we're waiting for an Uber. They finally come and pick us up. And all of the streets around our house, we live like 3 blocks from Michigan Ave, were shut down, like closed off.
Like you couldn't get to them?
You couldn't
even
drive.
by foot?
couldn't drive.
You could walk?
So we like stop at this barricade, and we get out, and there's police everywhere, all over the city, especially like in the city center near where Michigan Avenue, where we lived. And we like get questioned, like, we're like, hey, you know, we're just trying to get home. Like, what is going on? We had no idea what had just happened. Like, we knew we shouldn't go outside. We were having a good time at Dan's. Like, that wasn't our main concern. Eventually we start walking, and so it's like our street, and then 1 block down is like a row of bars and good restaurants and like our regular places we go because it's so close. And there's like a CVS completely looted. The windows were broken. For months after, they didn't like carry any cigarettes, any tobacco products. The ATM was missing. And this is 1 block from our house. We walk home, we like pass a city bank, some bank, completely glass everywhere, police everywhere. Like, we just start running home because it's sketchy. It's just a group of 3 girls. Like, we have no idea about what is to come. And then that was Saturday night. The next night, we are walking home from the park, and we hear this noise. It was just me and my good friend Kenzie, as you guys know her,
of course.
And shout out to Kenzie.
Yeah, yo, what up, Kenzie? We hear this noise, and it's like if you could imagine hearing like a herd of elephants. Like, it's like thumping and screaming, but far enough that we couldn't distinguish what it was. And it just was like chilling almost. So we just start running, unaware of like what it is. And then we're like, oh my God. After finding out what had just happened, every single store except the Crocs store on Michigan Avenue on the Magnificent Mile had been looted that night before. We realized that it was the protesters for the Black Lives Matter movement. And like, we just sprint home, take the service elevator, trying to get out of there as quickly as we can. And then we're literally sitting in our living room, and we see like hundreds of people walking by right outside of our house, like within clear view, protesting for the movement. Like,
and it was that loud, it sounded like a herd of elephants?
From blocks away, like sprinting.
So no one took any Crocs?
No, literally every
untouched.
store except the Crocs store.
Wow.
Isn't it nuts?
How do you think people that own Crocs would feel about that?
Lucky. Shit, they're still making money.
Do you own any Crocs?
Yeah.
Do you really?
I actually bought some camo Crocs recently, and then I returned them. The comfiest accessories.
Yeah. I think I might get a pair.
I think that you should. You've
never
worn them?
I've never put them on my feet.
What?
Yeah. I think I'd be into them though.
No shorts, no
You would
Crocs?
definitely be into Crocs.
Yeah, I think
dude,
so.
That's cushy.
I don't partake in Crocs because when I worked at a shoe store, they'd put the Crocs on these little hooks that you'd like. So it's like you hook them together and then you put them on
Hang
like
'em?
yeah. Then you hang them on these things and then you'd have like 4 or 5 or 6 deep. But then the customers would take them, try them on, and then just leave them all over the floor. So like one customer would come in and try out like, I don't know, 6 pairs, 8 pairs of Crocs and just leave them all over the place. And
They're all
that's
the
my
same.
experience with Crocs. So anyway, Chicago.
Oh,
Thought I'd throw that in there.
No, I mean, you got to give them a chance, man. It's maximum
Hey,
comfort.
dude, are you gonna put these Crocs back? Yeah, I could see where that would
8
really
pairs?
mess your
That's
day up.
16 shoes.
They're
you
all
rehook.
the same shape.
I know.
There's different colors.
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't
they
know,
did tie-dye. You got a nice pair of camos.
I had to return them. I was like, no, thank you.
Should've kept
Why did I buy these? $40. But
Who's the idiot?
yeah.
Crocs.
Something that is really interesting about Chicago and all the protesting and the looting is like, yeah, this is one of the most segregated which, I mean, you should use that word lightly, but quite honestly, segregated cities in America. Like
Chicago is?
Yeah, it's so within 8 miles. I was researching this. I wrote this thing about it. 8 miles from our house where we heard that protesting going on, the crime rate is 25 times higher. Inglewood compared to Gold Coast in Chicago, the crime rate is 25 times higher.
That's nuts.
Like, that is not a far distance at all. I drove 11 miles to get here. Like,
Yeah.
Doesn't Chicago have one of the most murders per capita out of any cities in the U.S.?
not per capita, but as far as like actual shootings and
Yeah.
murders, like it's like top on the list.
It's up there, yeah.
It's super dangerous. But this places that we walk around that's not the case at all. Like, of course, you know, a city is a city and you have to be careful. But looking at that from like the view of would I ever drive around the south side of Chicago? Like, absolutely not. Those are that were in our neighborhoods, not our neighborhoods, but in the city downtown looting. And like, that's not okay. Like, this is not my city. This is our city. Like, so I think I have a unique view on that whole movement. And I think it is such a shame that it was twisted into like more of a political approach, because I think that, and I think this, like for a lot of things that happened in 2020, like, you know, there are so many things that we need to confront as a society, but that was twisted in a way that it's not like I want to be wearing even a Black Lives Matter shirt because it seems like a political agenda, when in reality, the fact is like, these are issues we need to be, that everyone needs to confront.
Absolutely.
And needs to be changed. Like,
well, unfortunately, I think like a lot of it was hijacked by political groups. So if you look at, like, there's a lot of stuff where people like take a look at the 3 leading members of Black Lives Matter as it is now, and like they're allegedly like Marxists. So it's like it's very much become a political movement and gotten away from like what the actual slogan is saying, like the Black Lives Matter is like equality is important. Like, we literally are equal as people. But now what happens is that, I think, this is personally what I think from just listening to people about this, is that these groups get hijacked by political groups, and then rather than doing something to make equality like the main focus, like Black people kind of become the product or like the vehicle for these things. And like what kind of confuses me with this stuff is that you have like a group that has leaders who are like Marxists, but then you have like corporations that are also like promoting this organization. And to me, it's like, I got to imagine that these corporations have huge marketing firms and things like that. They're probably vetting some of this stuff. Like, they've got to know some of this. So it's just weird that those two things would line up.
I totally agree.
It doesn't make sense to me. And it's like, I can see it like optics wise, where you'd want to have your name associated to a name like that. But I don't know. There's got to be a better way. Like I haven't listened in a while, but there's a podcast called Mo Facts with Adam Curry, and literally they take. So Malcolm X had something where he said, like, the only way that we're going to figure out racial problems in America is if the black man and the white man sit down and talk openly and honestly. Like, that's literally a quote from him. And so that's what they do, and they talk about it. And he brings a lot of these facts to the table that I just never thought of. Like, I didn't look at the way that, like, basically minority groups are commoditized by different groups. They're taken, they're used, there's a political message, and then it gets hijacked, it gets whatever, that it just gets taken over, and then the people that it's supposed to be helping just get fucking used and abused. And then
Literally.
Like you look at a lot of the messaging, and he breaks it down. He's like, look what's happening with the messaging coming from a lot of these groups now. It's like separating black men from black women. Like, it's all about black women empowerment, but then they're like kind of neglecting like black men. And it's hard for me to like remember all of this. And dude, I'm a white guy, so it's like I'm definitely not the utmost authority on this shit. But go check that out if you're like curious about some of these differences in these groups and the way they kind of use different groups for their own messages. Listen to Mo Facts with Adam Curry. The guy lays it out really well. I mean, and he even like talks about this book. It's called Trick Baby, and
you were reading that, were you?
Yeah. And it's from like a guy named Iceberg Slim. He was like a pimp, and he ended up writing all these books, but one of them was called Trick Baby, and there's like a section of it that really like highlights some of the way that black people are used by super wealthy, super powerful people. And it was written in the 60s, and it was relevant to what's going on today.
Yeah.
That's the systemic shit that I see. Like, I don't think that most people today, person to person, I don't think most people are racists. Like, most people that I know, that I talk to, like, that I've asked this, they're like, they don't really know racist people either. I'm not talking about somebody that makes a joke or something. I'm talking about like real racist people. I don't think that is that big of an issue today. I could be wrong, but I don't see it. And I've been all over the country too. But I think systemic racism exists. Like, you look at all these fucking cities, like all these programs that just keep people on a rotating cycle of poverty, on a rotating cycle of going to jail, people just getting promised all kinds of shit. Like, that's fucking systemic racism. That's fucked up, and it's not easy. And that gets past the point where it's like, well, just figure it out for yourself. It's like, no, dude, you have people that are putting their trust in people that are just abusing them over and over and over.
And for so long.
For
years. For
decades.
Much longer than we were ever thought up. Much longer than the politicians that are doing these twisted, and corporations that are making these twisted decisions and using humans as products to get whatever they want. Like, that, this issue existed long before. And like, I wrote this thing about it when I was literally experiencing this looting, where it's like, if you look at what happened 400 years ago with slavery, which maybe I should just read it.
Yeah.
It's such a backwards thing. Then you look at Chicago, and it's still a reflection of the decisions that were made so long ago. Yet there's organizations and governmental leaders and people that want to benefit off injustice to then serve themselves. Like, that takes something that is so good and makes it so bad. Because I agree, like, it's not like you walk down the street and you like are like, oh man, that guy's a racist. Like, no, it's just embedded into society in a way that should, like, everything that happened last year. And that's just one of the injustices that I feel like happened in 2020. Like, there's so much corruption, as you guys both know.
Dude, it's crazy. Like the amount of money that's transferred in the past year just to like super uber wealthy people is ridiculous. That's what baffles me about all of this stuff is like the same people that traditionally would be like, you know, fuck these big businesses and fuck all these things are the same people that are literally going along with all that stuff now. And I really don't understand it because, like, look, I get that certain people, especially a place like Chicago where it's way more liberal and everything, like,
Yeah.
they wanted it more shut down. Maybe they wanted it to be safer. Whatever the argument is, right? Like, and I totally get it if you want to be safe and you've kind of bought into all of that side of the messaging that, you know, like, you're going to fucking die if you get this, if you're a regular person. I mean, it seems like probably not, but I get why people think that way. Yeah. But by doing that and shutting things down, you made it so, like, restaurants or bars or smaller businesses, like, couldn't be open or really had to, like, way bend over backwards to be open. But you can have a company like Amazon who is so busy now, they can't even hire enough people to drive 24/7 and deliver you a fucking roll of toilet paper in the middle of the night because they're so busy.
Yeah.
And all this money, like, almost all of the currency in the U.S., or half of it, has been printed in the past year and a half.
Dude, that's this thing, that podcast, you listen to that part, it just is, it's baffling. I don't understand it, so I want to talk about it because...
Oh, yeah, the unlimited hangout, the Whitney Webb thing?
They said 3.5 trillion is what we... Is that what he doubled the...
I'm not positive of what the number is, but...
It's crazy, dude, that, like, you see these things, we see these injustices happening, and people are dying, and these things are happening in the world, and then somewhere somebody is taking the chance to, like, as we have the blindfold on, like, if this stuff is true, to make these decisions, and people continue to grow their wealth and, you know, slide these people under the bus.
Yeah.
And nobody bats an eye to it.
And nobody knows. And that's especially
nobody knows
the part of the world that we need to be talking about, but nobody seems to put any spotlight on it, because along with the sketchiness, the controversy of COVID, the controversy of Black Lives Matter, the controversy of the election, we also have this huge, and what I wish people would know, like, I don't know, corruption in the media.
It's ridiculous.
And that, like, I could feel myself being in Chicago and like not being jaded by what I'm reading on Instagram or Facebook, but all, like, having to actively like compartmentalize these issues that are happening in society so blatantly, all, and this is just a personal opinion, but fueled by this election. Like, I don't know how, and it has everything to do with money, you know, but it's just messed up.
And we've talked about this before, Chris, but the problem is that there's so much bullshit on every platform. At some point, you're just like, all right, I'm not going to look at anything because I don't know what to believe at this point.
Yeah.
And then it pulls you away from taking action on things that actually matter to, you know, other people, under other races, under other genders. And it's like, then you can't help yourself, you can't help other people because you
don't even know what to do.
No,
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is good, this is bad, this is bad, this is good. You don't, there's no direction.
And especially when the spotlight is put on things that major corporations, powerful people, like, don't want it to be on. Like, even in that podcast that guy made, what was his documentary? Something with a B. Bailout. He's like, it didn't get anywhere because nobody person in power wants it to.
He said the reason that it didn't get pushed forward is because it was the truth.
Yeah. And I think that is so true in our media, but at the same time, like, we all eat it up. Like, and I mean, we at least are on Instagram for, I'll speak for like the average 26-year-old female, like at least an hour a day. And that's on the conservative side. Like, but we don't know the algorithms that go into that, the people that are controlling that messaging, their intentions, like, especially when there's so much going on in the world, global movement and global pandemic. I don't like,
Yeah.
to me, it just made me so, I don't know, 2020 was like so eye-opening if you actually sit down and take the time to look at how much of this world is corrupt and how much you can't trust. Like,
Crazy, right? So
I'm not
that's
trying to be negative.
No,
Damn.
it's not even being negative. It's like trying to figure out what's actually going on. And this is why I started. How fucking dare you? This is why I started like looking into some of this stuff. And I think I've talked about this on here. Like, we talked about it with the QAnon stuff, but like QAnon, it ended up being like totally crazy. But at the beginning, it was actually very eye-opening because it was one of those things where I didn't trust the media. I didn't understand what the fuck was going on. Like, I couldn't put together 2 and 2 based on what I was seeing in the news. And that was at the point where I was really trying to like understand what was going on. I was at the point in my life where I had a job doing sales and I was calling like real adults asking for real money. And I was like, you know what? I need to know what's going on in the world. So I was reading the Wall Street Journal, trying to pay attention to some of this stuff. And just as this unfolded, it didn't make sense. And looking at I think I might even looked at the QAnon stuff before COVID, but like some of this stuff, it just made you look at, why is this world leader meeting with this world leader? I thought that they were enemies. How come they're buddy in a fucking palace with these other people? Who is this other person? This person is a really high-powered lawyer for a firm in D.C. that basically made this, and this scandal go away. All right, so why is he with a Saudi prince? You're like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is what is going on?
And you try to
all the
Google
time?
it, and there's no trace of that person. And who? I was talking to my boyfriend last night, and the question was like, if you could be one person for a day, like if you could be one woman and one man, we had the choice, like the option of 2 for a day, like what would you be? And, you know, like there's the option of being like Beyonce and having just like a baller day in her mansion. Or there's also the option of like being whatever lawyer, being a political leader, and like being able to actually know their thoughts and like have a full concept of their brain. Like, I would do that for both the female and male role. But maybe 2 years ago, I wouldn't have even thought about the corruption or the things that could be exposed by actually being inside a powerful person like that's head for a day. It's like in U.S. history, my junior year, you learn about like the era of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and like Watergate, and that was the first time that anybody ever like genuinely questioned the government, and it like created the first sense of distrust into our political system. And I really feel like that is another era that we're going through right now, where it's like not only our government, but powerful corporate entities like Google, like people that control what we think and profit off of it. Like, it's spooky.
It is spooky. But I this is like where I'm trying to put all these pieces together. Is like, I don't know that it's a big conspiracy, or is it more just like a shitload of people that are corrupt that have their own little conspiracies to make things happen? Like, when I say conspiracies, it's like people do have to conspire to pull certain things off. Like, people are corrupt. People do fucked up things all the time. So like, it seemed, from what I can tell, it seems more like a bunch of individual groups doing a ton of corrupt things, and we're just maybe this is the first time we really get to see it. And the only problem is you can see so much of it now that people don't know what to do.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's so relevant to everyone's lives because they can't go outside and because they can't go into work.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
And because like it is at the forefront of when you wake up in the morning to when you go to bed at night. Like,
That's the
Which is
important.
interesting.
That's the important part. I'm glad you said that because we were here in Florida. We're in Southwest Florida, so we're not in a place that like really shut us down or kept us like locked down. But that is the part that freaks me out about all of this more than the corruption and all of this kind of stuff. That bothers me, right? But the thing that really like scares the fuck out of me is the fact that these people who are corrupt and doing all of this shady shit are the ones that get to tell us if you can leave your house. Like, fuck that, dude. Like, seriously. Like, the guy, look, like, this is not even a conspiracy. This is, like, pretty well documented. But Fauci, the guy who's heading all of this shit that's telling Americans what to do, is the guy that was leading the group that did gain-of-function research. And they got shut down in the U.S. because gain-of-function research is basically where they make viruses more deadly so that way they can figure out how to counteract those more deadly viruses and in turn possibly stop future viruses and things like that. So that got shut down in the U.S. So he partnered with a group that outsourced that to China. Where was it outsourced to in China? Wuhan, the Wuhan lab. It looks more and more likely that this virus was created in a lab, not from bats from 1,000 miles away or in a wet market or anything, that it was created in a lab. So if this guy who is in charge of all of this shit that led to the outbreak of COVID-19 that shut the world down, why in the fuck would I listen to what he would tell me to do? And at the same time that this broke out and shut the whole world down and brought everything to a halt, gain-of-function research is on schedule to get like 5 or 10 times the funding than it had before. So for me, I just don't understand why we're like listening to all these people. I don't get it. That's the part that drives me nuts about this. And so many people don't want to look at it that way. They're like, oh, you're just crazy. Nobody would ever take your rights. But like, look at Israel right now. They put in this vaccine passport thing. Everybody's fucking vaccinated. And they're talking about rescinding your rights to travel and do anything if you don't get the booster shot. When the fuck does that end? When does that end? Have you ever looked at a company that's a major company on the stock exchange that's like, yeah, we don't care about future earnings. Like, that's not really our primary goal. Like,
No.
put 5 of the biggest pharmaceutical companies up who were the devil 2 years ago. Remember when pharmaceutical companies were the devil?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's totally different. They're totally different companies now.
People
Like
forget.
they have totally different objectives.
Fauci said it.
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, so here's the thing, is I you hear people talk about it. Oh, Fauci's in on the COVID, whatever. I haven't seen like any factual information from that. So here's my thing, and I got this from the podcast that you sent over. And maybe I'm wrong on this, but I feel like when people used to find out information and report it, it was journalism, and now journalism has become like investigating. You can't just read what's on the surface and take some on the surface. Like, you really have to dive into everything now because there's so many layers, and at that bottom layer is where you find out the truth.
And it's dangerous. That bottom layer is dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, that is communism. Like, that is scary, where you get so far into something that you're a threat to people that have more money than you.
Yeah. And then people think
Like-
that you're an absolute nutcase when you're like, hey, like, there's certain people, if you were to say that, they'd be like, oh, Chris is absolutely
Yeah, it feels
insane.
weird.
Yeah.
It feels weird to say this because you wouldn't like. Yeah, it just feels weird. It feels fucking weird to say this. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because you feel like a crazy person.
I have an example. So you guys know who Alex Jones is?
No.
Yeah.
He's like a...
He basically has the truth on everything. Just that's what I got.
He's a genius.
Well, no. So, like, I heard him, like, I don't know, 10 years ago. And I'm like, this dude is insane. Everything
He's
he's saying.
fucking wild.
Yeah, he's just wacky. And then, like, over the last couple of years, people are like, everything Alex Jones said has become more or less pretty much true.
He's
Not
been
everything,
more
like,
accurate than he's been
wrong.
wrong.
Yeah.
And he says some wild shit.
Yeah, dude, like the stuff about like the abortions or whatever at the hospitals, like that came out and that was like a real thing. I don't know
Which one?
where you could like they were aborting fetuses, something like that, something real dark. And I don't know, but then he ended up people were like, yeah, no, here's the papers, and they posted like this is like an option that people can take. And people
Yeah,
are like,
where
dude, there's no hospitals that do that, and somewhere in some back
There's
Was confirmed.
It's not even that backwards of places. It's like there's places where you can go in, and then these different companies will go in and buy like aborted fetuses, and they'll pay like, it's like they have like video of this lady at a lunch that are like talking about selling these things. She's like, yeah, we usually pay like $250 for an embryo arm. If it's, I don't know what the classification
that
is,
is
stage
just
4
insane.
arm or something like that. It's like, what the fuck is this shit, dude?
Yeah. And I think the biggest tragedy, because there's all of this weird, like, okay, COVID, if anything, we need to come together because there are some lonely people. Like,
Cough in my mouth.
stand as close to me as possible. No, but like
You're right.
for
You're absolutely
emotional
right.
support, like instead it's creating a huge divide in who to believe and which side you're on and are you going to get the vaccine or are you not?
Yeah.
And same with, I know I keep going back to this Black Lives Matter, not because I support either political side, but because that is an issue that we need to come together on. And yet it's just a huge wedge between what you believe and what you don't. Like, that is so backwards. That is the opposite of the point. Like, and we can't control like systematic racism. We can't control the fact that whether it was created in a lab, whether Fauci is good or bad, like we can't control any of that, but we can support each other, whether it's from 6 feet or
And it's
whatever,
Well,
and it's just like that is, it's so mind-blowing to me because there's so many corrupt people in the world that you don't have to be corrupt. Like, you at least do some sort like good instead of posting on Facebook and bashing somebody that has a different political belief than you.
And the problem
Or-
too is that when we should be coming together, it's the government is making it nearly impossible, or at least making you feel like a terrible person about it.
it's the government, it's the news, it's a lot of these things, and you feel like an idiot saying like, "Oh, the government does this," but at the same time, that's part of what it is. It's all of these major forces that, honestly, you bring up a good point, because if people just like came together as regular people and stopped protecting these stupid ass ideologies on both sides, and you just like realize that people are fucking people, we would be so much better off. Then we could actually figure out dealing with systemic racism, because if you have people that are all coming together and not looking to divide, like, oh, your side sucks or your side sucks, here's why. If you listen to like both regular conservatives and regular liberal people that have like feel strongly about how they feel, that are like caught up in this, if you really break it down, they're saying the same shit. They're literally saying the same shit. We want our families to be safe. We want people to be taken care of. We want everybody to like love each other. We don't want to be oppressed. We don't want to like be broke. Everybody is literally saying the same thing. You just have a different way of getting there. So rather than fucking telling everybody that they're retards, why don't you just say like, hey, I disagree with you on 10% of what you're saying, and then you can come together. Because if I say, hey, Abby, I heard what you said, you're a fucking idiot, then you'd be like,
then it's a fight.
Then you'd be like,
right
fuck
away
you.
you-
And the solution to all of this is literally empathy. Like, is empathy. Like,
Hey,
I hear what you are saying. I hear how you feel. Like, I'm sorry. I maybe I don't understand, but I'm listening. Like, let me just listen for a second. Like,
This is everybody. Nobody listens.
No, it's
at all.
It's ego. People's egos get in the way. Instead of, like you said, all right, Abby, you have a view on something that I don't understand, or I say I don't agree with. But the bottom line is most people just don't understand. And instead of saying like, hey, I don't understand, but I want to understand, they just lose it. And they're like, nope, that's wrong. This is what I believe. I don't want to believe that.
But this isn't a new thing. So like you mentioned ego, and that reminds me of like Stoicism. That's part of the cool part about Stoicism. Do you know what Stoicism is?
Yeah, kind of from Matt.
From Matt. Okay. I figured he probably would have said something.
Yeah.
Talk about it a little bit.
So like part of Stoicism is really like getting out of your own way and not letting the ego take over, because if you look at it, right, just from like a practical philosophy aspect, if you look at everybody like an enemy, your life is gonna suck. You gotta fucking
Literally,
fight. You gotta fight everybody, and you think everybody's an idiot, and then where does that leave you at the end of the day, right? If you think everybody's fucking up all the time, what's your inner voice like? What are you saying to yourself? Like, if you could just get out of that habit of like, this person's a fucking idiot, that being like, maybe you can't control that being your first reaction, but if you like stop for a second before you like go down that path, and you take a break for a split second and go like, this person could be me. Like, this person could be uninformed. They might not know all the same things that I know, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe they're just like pissed because they've got to deal with XYZ, and they're really frustrated, and they don't really care about, this guy doesn't really have an opinion on Black Lives Matter, but he sounds fucking racist, and he's probably ill-informed on this. So like, rather than being like, fuck you, you piece of shit, just be like, hey dude, like, here's how I've seen it. And the same thing, like, when everyone's like, these fucking liberal cucks, it's like, dude, fucking, what the fuck do you think this is gonna do? How is this gonna help anybody?
Including yourself.
Yeah. But this stuff's been going on forever. Like, it goes on all over the world. All different countries take place in this. Just they divide themselves into groups. Like, there's even a Tom Segura joke about it. He talks about meeting a Japanese director who was like looking at like the skin of one of the PAs on set, and he's like, what was that? And it's like, Japanese people like apparently look down on Korean people, and like there's like racism in like on the other side of the world. Like, they have like similar shit going on. But you read these like Lives of the Stoics, like the shit's been going on for 2,000, 3,000 years of people just like, fuck you, no, fuck you.
It's like, always been happening.
It's been happening forever. So I don't think it's a new thing.
Yeah.
It's just we have so much access to all this information. Like, guys, like, come on. Stop fucking hating everybody.
But
You're not helping
think about what you can learn.
Yeah.
If you just shut up and listen, not you or anyone specific, but like,
Did you just tell me to shut up?
Did you tell Chris to shut up?
No. Like, I don't feel polarized by anything. Like, I don't feel polarized. Is that the right word? Yeah. By like a political party. I don't feel polarized on my beliefs about COVID, about my beliefs about Black Lives Matter. Like, but I do feel like I have a lot to learn. And through a conversation with somebody that maybe isn't even educated, like, I'm happy that I can understand so-and-so whoever's view on it, because I'm not like, I listened to that. Like, there's somebody like you that has that stance. Yeah. And there's somebody like you that has a total different one. Like, you can only get smarter with a more colorful ear or listen system.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And I think that's really what's key. Like,
yeah, this is funny you just said that, because I wanted to ask you. So you're obviously a great speaker, but you listen very well. What do you think? Why do you think you do that? Is there like a reason behind it? Like, other people can be like, all right, or is there like a process you go through? They're just naturally like that. Like, you just naturally are just curious about the world, or is there something like, all right, like how do you like genuinely want to understand stuff? Because I know that you do.
Yeah. I think that, like, I don't think of myself as someone that knows everything. Like, I think of myself much different than that. Like, I am not, there's so much more I could possibly read. There's so many, in every single area of life, I could educate myself more, like, because of the information that's available. And I think it goes all the way back to like my upbringing. I was one of 5 kids. Like, my opinion wasn't always the most vital, but I could learn from everybody else's and come up with my own. And it doesn't matter if anybody else believes it, because that's not the point. Like, if you can be a sponge to educate yourself, even if you keep your opinion to yourself, like, why not? You know?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm finding a common theme here. We talked to Rhiannon last week, and I think somebody talked about this before, and then like I'm getting the same vibes. Like, having good self-awareness, I think, is a huge key to understanding the people around you and your universe around you.
Yeah, that's
just
a good
kind of
point.
now realizing this. Yeah.
I think you have good self-awareness.
I'm just saying, like for you, like for somebody to say, like somebody to understand that like you're in a family of 5, and like to understand and not be upset, like my opinion is not always going to be the one that people care about. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot to understand, especially for somebody being that, you know, being young and.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Thanks.
Like, if you talk to people that are aware of themselves, they do tend to be able to see things from other people's perspectives. But it comes back to the empathy thing that you were talking
and
about.
ego.
Yeah.
Like, I'm no bigger than anyone. None of us are. Nobody is bigger than anyone. Like, so
we are all bigger than Lily.
Physically, yes. much bigger. She weighs a total of 20 pounds. So
take that, Lily. I'm bigger.
got you good, Lil.
But it's true. Like, everybody has something that they can teach you.
Yeah.
If you just freaking shut up and listen. Like,
That's
your
an
opinion.
it's an amazing outlook to have.
Yeah.
Do you feel like traveling has helped you kind of shape that ability to do that?
I don't even think of that as an ability. I think
Okay.
I think my biggest interest is understanding culture and the way that society and a person's life, even if you grew up and you were next door neighbors, like, that doesn't mean that you grew up in the exact same culture. And the culture in Fort Myers and Chicago and Indianapolis, where I grew up, like, it's all different, and it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
But if you can like gain an understanding and at least experience a different way of life to expand the possibilities for your own, like, that's the benefit of traveling.
Yeah.
I don't think it should like change your core
Beliefs
values, but I think being open and realizing that you only have such a small glimpse of the world is really important to being humble and seeing yourself in a realistic way. Like,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, you get to see yourself in like the bigger scope of things, I think. I think traveling and I think history does that for me. So like for traveling, part of what it does is it lets you see how different things are and how many people go through life. Like, when I say go through life, I don't mean like the theoretic. I mean like literally from birth to death. That's a journey of life. And if you go to the other side of the world, there's people that live in entirely different situations than you do. Circumstances, languages, values, environments, everything could be totally different. And that doesn't make it a wrong way to live. But there's also a lot of like similarities when you look at other places in the world. Like, we went to Bali, and that, I think if you look at Fort Myers and Bali, I probably would guess they're literally like on the opposite sides of the earth.
They gotta be.
But they're like, we were talking to the tour guide, and we would talk to some of the people that like worked at the different places, and like they all have very similar values to if you went to talk to somebody that lived in fucking bumfuck Oklahoma. Like, it wouldn't matter. Like, people still want the same shit. It's just like these like super liberals and super conservatives. Like, at the end of the day, a lot of them want the same shit. It's just it all kind of looks different. So if your whole first approach is like be afraid of it, then you're gonna be afraid of it. You know, like you're not gonna look at it like something to learn from. Plus, if you think you know everything, you're fucked.
Yeah.
That's not good at all.
You're literally screwed.
Yeah.
Because you will just get rocked by the world.
Yeah.
But history does that for me too. Of like I was saying, like going through I'll give you the Lives of the Stoics. I finished it, so I'll give it to you after. Our buddy Mason comes on the show, and he basically gives us history lessons. And
Good ones. They're good ones.
No, it's super fucking
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
But part of it too is seeing this stuff. Things go in cycles, and hearing people from 2,000 years ago that were writing their thoughts down and things like that, and seeing that they have the same thoughts that we do now 2,000 years ago. Like, what the fuck is life, dude? Like, what is this thing that we're doing?
It says something about humanity that, like, somebody, say you're born here and you have no contact with the outside world, like any cities around you, then you go and you meet somebody in Bali, and you somehow have that same, like, touch of humanity and your same, like, beliefs and goals. And the people 2,000, 3,000, however long ago still thought in this manner.
Because this is crazy, but we are just creatures. Like, just like a bird is a bird and a lion is a lion, like, we are literally just creatures. Like, yeah, we may be much more advanced and we feel a lot more and we have a lot more technology. We use tools, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, like, we are a species, and this is the species that we are, like, period. It reminds me of Q.
Yeah.
That I met.
Dude, that is one of the coolest stories. Would you tell that story?
Yeah, of course.
Have you heard this story, Chris?
No.
Dude, brace yourself.
Who's Q?
So I studied abroad in England, and
Oh, good day, mate.
Yes, I did. Surely. And I met this girl who was there from South Africa, and just amazing. Like, she was the type of person that you just, like, wanted to be around, but she was, like, didn't talk a lot, super peaceful, like, played and sang music. Just a good energy, a good spirit. Like, anyone could feel it. Everybody liked her. And she lived on the same floor, like, in the dorms as me. And so, like, we would just talk and talk and talk. And she grew up in a family, and I don't know the, like, appropriate, I don't know, adjectives to describe the differences of, like, her dad, who was Catholic, a priest, and much more Western minded, than her mom, who grew up in, like, a village in South Africa that was much less technologically advanced.
Sure.
So they had money, of course. I mean, they were super successful, but she knew how to speak English, and then her, like, more native language to that village, which was like a tribal, super old language.
Whoa.
And she spoke to me in it. It was like so many clicking, like, it was bizarre. It was like nothing I'd ever heard. And so they have a combination of both, like, Western medicine and belief systems, and then also ancient theories. And
There's like almost like spiritual.
Exactly. And when it came to, like, treating illnesses, confronting reality, like, a much different system than what we know today that was specific to that tribal area. And so she was, like, super hesitant to tell me this, because we, like, got talking deeper about her family, and she was talking about her sister, who kept having dreams where she was, like, speaking to her great grandma, or a dream that would, like, give her a hint of what was going to happen sometime. And like, in that culture, that was, like, some sort of specific gift. Mm-hmm. So there was a school that her sister could attend to kind of, like,
enhance that ability.
Exactly. Okay. And again, like, I trust this girl like fully. She was super hesitant to tell me. And I'm so glad that she did, because again, this is one of those things that makes you feel so small, and there's so much more out there than what we know, here. And so she went to this school, learned like how to channel that skill. They had a huge celebration at the end of it where like they do different like herbal drugs and, feel what she just learned. And fast forward, like I'd say a year or so, and her sister's like fully practicing with this talent, especially, and she like serves the whole family. And
when you say serves the whole family, like,
it'll make sense.
Okay.
She goes to bed, whatever, has a dream, and it was like her great grandma or her great aunt, something along those lines, came to her and was like, hey, your brother is a really bad alcoholic. We are trying to protect him. I just got chills. And it's getting harder. He got into a really bad car accident last night. He's not going to tell anyone. You need to call him and talk to him about what happened and tell him that, like, we're on his side, but there's only so much we can do. So sure enough, the next morning she calls her brother. This is Q's sister. And she's like, I know about the accident. I've been told, like, you have got to rein it in. Your life is at stake. And let's go, dude. Like, and so he admitted to the accident, stopped drinking, life turned around.
Whoa.
Like,
Wild.
bizarre.
Wild, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, you told me that story late one night, and I remember, like, I couldn't sleep because I was just, like, thinking about...
Mind blown.
Yeah.
And especially for somebody that's like, this wasn't like somebody's friend's friend something somewhere. Like, no, this is real every day. Her sister, somebody I fully trust. Like, I only know a tiny portion of this world. We only know a tiny portion of this world.
Yeah.
Like, that was one person that I met. I can't even imagine other belief systems that I wish that I did know.
If you could get just, like, a little piece of knowledge just from,
Yeah.
a couple hundred people like that, I feel like you'd just be so much better
Dude.
off along.
I'd move or something. It's cool.
Yeah. Dude, it is crazy, like, when you hear about that kind of stuff. Like, I think a lot of that kind of stuff is real. We are super disconnected from, like, our primal nature. I mean, like, we're real disconnected. Like, the shit that we put up with and deal with is way different, but it's more convenient in a lot of ways. It's better than the primal stuff you deal with because like the primal stuff is pretty dangerous. It's insecure. It's all that kind of stuff. Your life can be on the line, but we detach ourselves from that, and I think we forget that other side of things is out there. Like, there is a whole fucking spiritual world and all of this stuff. Like, you can't really explain that. And I think certain people do have the ability to see that stuff. Just like you meet a certain person and they're like really gifted at sales or really gifted at a particular instrument, or they're really gifted at something. Is like their aptitude is built for that. Like you meet a certain salesperson and you're like, I fucking never would have thought to do that on my own. Like I'm part of the sales course. It's called Close Loop, and we go through, and on this call, like, we talk through things, and like just like, okay, and the guy's like with somebody else, okay, let's role play. Like, what do you do if somebody just says, oh yeah, just pass me some information? Like, that's basically them saying like fuck off, but saying it nicely. And he's like, all right, well, I have two pieces of information. One is for people that have this issue, and then this other piece is for the people with this issue. Which one do you fall into? Like, fuck. I
think I'm both.
Like, I never would have thought to say.
Yes.
I never would have thought to say that particular thing. Like, yes, it's training. Yes, you can learn it. Yes, all these things. But it's obviously a skill you have to adapt. But like.
Yeah.
No, like that's not where my brain is. But on the flip side, like, I may be able to figure out something like with podcasts or with music or something that maybe that he wouldn't be able to figure out. And you kind of have these things that you're just aptitude for.
Exactly.
So why would that be something that doesn't
exist.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting about
That was the worst way to say that possibly spirits could exist, but
We got what you were talking
yeah,
about, buddy.
no, I didn't think it was the worst way. I think what's interesting isn't that she was like Long Island medium out here, like, I know about your grandpa.
Yeah.
Like, it was like there was just a small urge or sign that maybe you could
yeah.
flex this muscle, and in that specific area of the world, they had a whole course or a whole line of work that could help
Could
you
you-
do that.
Could you imagine? Sorry to interrupt you from interrupting.
No, you're good.
Could you imagine having a small glimpse into like another world like that? Like how you would live your life differently, even just like for like 2 seconds, knowing that everybody has their doubts, but even like know that there's like something like that. How different you would live the rest of your life just being able to see that.
Dude, I won't say more for myself, but I mean, I've had like that kind of experience, but that's also why that's like why I would want to try like ayahuasca or DMT or something like that. Do you know what ayahuasca is?
No.
It's basically like, I'll probably butcher this, but it's like some sort of drink that you have. It's from like the Amazon rainforest, but I think it is pretty similar to DMT, but it's something like that where you take it, you do it like in a ritual, but it does bring you to another place, like another dimension.
State of awareness.
People like people like will go travel across the world to wherever I don't know where it is, but yeah, I've watched YouTube videos and it's like a 3-day process where like you like come together with like a ton of people and then you like talk about like things that are bothering you, and then they'll like boil the plant and then you drink it, and there's people I watched them, and then they have these wild trips, and then they wake up like completely relieved and understand themselves better and the world better.
Life changing stuff, because it's just like, it's like in that way, it's like travel. It's like doing something new. You find out that there's a whole other world out there than you really even thought that there was, and then it makes you reevaluate and take a step back from your day-to-day life and what you hold as important, and it doesn't make that stuff less important.
No, but there's just more.
It puts it in perspective.
Yeah.
Um,
Have you guys ever seen a ghost?
I don't
Have
think
you?
so. Have you?
I can't say that I've actually like have seen a ghost.
Ooh, explain it. It's spooky season.
It's almost
Have you?
Halloween.
I've felt pretty weird at times.
Yeah,
Like
same.
like somebody was like close to me, but I've never.
Oh, you know
what
what's kind of crazy? I didn't have like a ghost, but when we were in Savannah, so like we went on like a haunted tour thing, and so one of them, you go into the basement of this place, and like they say like, oh, this was this room or whatever, and then one of them, we go into the room and like they explain what they did there, and Savannah has so much of like the Revolutionary War there. There's a lot of death, a lot of like ghosts and hauntings and stuff. We go into this one room, and like we're all standing around. She's like talking to us, and I'm like, fuck, my tooth like kind of hurts. And so she's talking, and she's like, yeah, this room used to be like some sort of surgery room, and some people have said they feel like a little kid like pulling on their pant leg or something like that. And I was like, no, I don't feel that. And then she's like, I even had somebody one time say their tooth hurt because this is actually where they did all the dental surgeries. And I was like, yeah, I'm not just saying this because you said it, but my tooth like
I got
hurts.
a toothache.
Yeah, my tooth just started hurting when I came in this room. She's like, there you go.
Yeah. The only time I ever think I saw a ghost was when we were in Muncie and we lived in the basement, and I woke up in the middle of the night. It was me.
Like this.
Yeah, and I don't know what it was. Like, it was all these figures. Like, it wasn't like a clear, like, guy in a top hat. It was just like movement. Orgs, or what is it?
Orbs, yeah.
That's the only
Ogres.
thing I've ever came close to as far as it goes.
So,
It was
like, I saw
spooky. I
these
went and laid
orbs.
in bed with Matt and Jenny, but I don't think either of you guys even knew it.
Sounds about right.
Then I was like, I got to go back to my bed.
Dude, one thing that actually, going back to what you said about like us just being creatures, one thing that really reminded me of that, I don't know if I told the story. I don't know. Who cares? But
Tell me
like
again.
So, Chicago. No, I'm just kidding. Like, so one time I was in Utah. I was camping, and we were camping in this place. It was me, this guy I knew from college, his girlfriend, and then her roommate. And then we had 2 dogs with us. And so we go to Utah. We're camping out there in this canyon, and this canyon is like no cell service, and no cell service for like the past 15 minutes to get to the canyon. No running water, no electricity, nothing. So when the sun goes down, like the moon came up over the canyon and you see a shitload of stars. So cool.
Best.
Moon lights up the canyon floor. It was fucking awesome. Like you walk down this creek through this canyon to your campsite, and there's a bunch of other campsites like along the creek that you can go to. They're all about, I don't know, a few hundred feet, 500 feet, 1,000 feet away from each other, something like that. But the moon goes down behind the canyon wall, and it's pitch black. Can't see your hands in front of you, but you can see more stars in the sky than you've ever seen, but you can't see right in front of you. And so we've got a fire going, and
God.
all of a sudden we see this like headlamp like floating along, and it's coming closer and it's coming closer, and it goes down the riverbank and comes up and comes close to us, and this guy walks up to us and he's shaking. He's like this, and the light's fucking shining on his face, so it's extra creepy. And he's like, "Hey, can I stay in your campsite tonight?" And we're like, the dogs are going crazy. And we're like, "Nah, dude, we're the dogs are kind of going crazy. We're pretty much full, so maybe you could check down there." And the guy was like, "Okay," and then like kept walking. We were like, "What the fuck is this?" So I went and got a knife that I had just like for when you're hiking and shit. I just put it on me, and like I had it. He's like, I didn't know if this guy was like a serial killer or some shit. That was the creepiest thing I've ever seen, and it was middle of nowhere, nothing. It was like a horror movie. But
Did he say he needed help or something?
He's like, I just need like a site to stay on. And he sounded super creepy. He was shaking and everything.
The light down on his face.
Yeah, like looked like a psychopath. And so like that was the moment where I realized like, oh shit, we've got all of these things like houses, phones, communities, cars, internet, all this shit, satellites, whatever else, all the technology we have. We are literally the same creatures that we've been for however long we've been here. Tens, hundreds, thousands, millions of years, however long it is. In that moment, all I had was me, 3 other people, 2 dogs, and a fire. And if that fire went out, who knows? Like that's all. That's
you would have been
all
like,
we
"Yeah,
had.
you can stay at our campsite because we need your lantern." Literally.
And that was like one of those moments where you realize, like, oh shit, we haven't changed. We think that we've gotten so much more advanced and all this stuff. Like we are the same fucking creatures. You know what the worst part about it was? It made me feel like shit. We met the guy the next morning. He offered us watermelons. Turns out he had Parkinson's, and by the end of the night, you're like super shaky with Parkinson's, and he just was like really tired and got there late and needed a place to stay. And I was the only one talking to him because I saw him in the parking lot, and then I went back to the campsite. I was like, "Guys, I don't know how to say this, but you know that really creepy guy that we thought was going to kill us? He was only shaking because he had Parkinson's. We're kind of fucked up there, but
you didn't know though, dude.
Yeah,
Comes up to you in the
saying
middle of the
yes
night.
would have been
Yeah.
the wrong choice too. How were you supposed to know?
Yeah.
a guy with Parkinson's can still kill you. So
Yeah.
So, you think that some of the things that our ancestors did, like if we were able to start doing those things, do you think they would be helpful in our lives?
What do you mean?
So, like, I follow this guy. His name is Liver King. and this dude just eats like he's a beast of a guy, and
I've seen some.
You see him. I follow him because it's super interesting. I'll tell you. So he eats like this raw liver, but then he says these things that make me think, and he's like, we need to do. He's like, if you want to completely annihilate depression, he's like, do this stuff. Go out in the sun every day for 30 minutes. Walk a bunch. Stand on the ground with your bare feet. Eat raw meat. Like, he's like, if you do these things, he's like, put away your cell phone. Like, talk to your family. Talk to your friends. And he's like, these are your primal ancestral, like, needs. Like, these are things that humans need, and they're getting farther and farther away from it. So he's like,
as species. Species.
Yeah, as a species. Yeah. And he's like, if you can do these things and implement these things in your day, like, I get it. I'm not going to go and eat like an entire leg of a cow raw, but like, you know, getting outside, like putting your feet on the ground and being in the sun more and like eating the right foods, I think can,
dude, big
absolutely.
time.
Yeah. Cause like you said, these urges that you have are just these like intuitions as humans, like, oh, all right, I feel uncomfortable, I'm gonna grab a weapon, I'm gonna tell my friends I feel uncomfortable, I'm gonna tell my pack that I feel uncomfortable.
Well,
like, we still have these things, so like, can we take it a step further and like do the things that
that's
used to do?
That's the crazy part about COVID was the distance between people. Like, you ever literally touch somebody and like you feel like relief or like an electrical pulse between.
Dude, you're gonna learn about it when Lana gets here. The skin to skin, that's why they do like the skin to skin, is because it calms the baby down. It makes them like feel loved. It comforts them.
Yeah,
it's like a known thing.
I think
for
all
humans.
this shit's important.
Oh my god, it is so vital for a baby, and that is because they're animals.
Yeah,
like literally we are animals.
Yep.
You know, the instinct of like a, I don't know, dog to lick its baby if it's hurt.
Or
like,
lick its butthole.
Or lick its butthole.
Yeah, you can do both.
Kind of different, but that can save its
I don't
kid's
have that
life.
instinct.
Yeah.
Neither do I.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like one of those things that like, if you see a baby, you want to hold it near you because that is the instinct of that. Like that's survival.
I think that's a girl instinct because that's not
that.
my instinct.
I didn't. I think I might have held 2 babies in my entire life for Lily, maybe 1, but now I feel that way because I understand.
Yeah.
But I babies, I'm like, I could care less. And now I'm like, oh, look at these babies.
Look at this baby.
Babies.
Maybe
Lily's
if
a
you had
baby.
like a niece or nephew, you'd feel the same way, but not to the full extent. Because I see my nieces and nephews, and I'm like, oh.
No, that's what I'm saying. Now though, I see babies, and I'm like, oh, what a cute baby.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
like you feel something about it. But before, I was like, I don't care. It was a little baby.
Well, yeah, it is finding like a baby that you actually care about. Like once Lily was born, once Malia was born, my niece, like yeah, then you have these babies around. You're like, oh, okay, like I kind of get it more. Before that, fuck babies, I don't care.
I don't know what to do with my hands when I'm holding you.
Yeah.
Dude, I did think I killed Lily when I first.
Yeah, they were whiplashing together.
Yeah,
Chris just held her, and her head just kind of like tilted to the side, and Chris is like,
what have I done?
She's gonna be fine.
She's dead.
Just wait, dude. They pull that baby out, and they're just like flinging it around the room, and you're like, is everything okay? Dude,
tomorrow, Chris.
Yeah.
Due date's tomorrow, but will she?
We'll
be
see.
here?
Yeah.
I feel like she'll probably be here tomorrow. Rebecca has been on point, literally like to a T the whole time. Like, oh, at this many weeks you're this many inches. This many weeks you're this many inches. Are you feeling this thing? Yes, I'm feeling this. Like it's been like fucking spot on. So I have a strong feeling she's coming tomorrow. I built out my work calendar for tomorrow. That way I've got it in case she doesn't. Because if I build it out, then she's probably going to come and then I'll readjust. But if I don't build it out, then I'll just be like standing around looking around all day tomorrow.
Yeah,
so yeah, it should be good. There's going to be some big changes, dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's going to be good, though, dude. You're going to love it all.
Dude, one thing, you didn't tell me your uncle was a VP at Disney.
What?
Your uncle is a VP at Disney.
No.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Dude, I found an article.
Oh, my God. What is this?
Dude.
Always something with this guy.
Former Walt Disney vice president sentenced to 6 years in prison for molesting a child. Dude, you never told me your uncle was a VP at Disney.
What is this?
This is your uncle. Remember
Please.
the one that was touching you and stuff? So,
Dude.
like,
What?
Look at this guy. Is this legit? This is somebody that
Where
did this?
did you? Is their last name Reed at least?
No, this makes no sense at all, Chris. Why do you even have this printed?
this is the uncle you told me touched you.
former former Walt Disney vice president sentenced to 6 years in prison.
That's it.
Oh, it is for sexual
That's-
abuse.
Yeah. Look at, you know what's interesting? Go down to this. Go down to like the last.
That does look like you.
The last.
In what way?
So go down to the last page and look at all the places that he worked at. Right here.
Wow.
Notice
dude.
anything similar between all those positions?
Yeah, they're all related to children. Education. Cool Roof of California. Children's Wonderland. Walt Disney. Warner Bros. Dude.
Crazy, right?
What was his title at Walt Disney?
Vice president.
Vice president of something.
It just says vice president on the front.
There's probably like 100 vice presidents at Disney.
Oh,
but-
I'm sure. Yeah.
That is so
Because isn't
sick.
there something in California too with Disney and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Disneyland there.
Disneyland?
You know, Matt, I did call a Matthew Reed yesterday, and sometimes like the system that I use to find phone numbers will like pull the wrong wrong number from the same first and last name, and I'm like leaving him a voicemail. I'm like, could it be
Yeah.
Matt Reed? But I don't know.
No, it wouldn't be me.
Do you need to buy anything from me?
Like, hey, it's Abby from, you know, like,
Please
would
buy
you know
something
if
like
it was
Abby. I
me?
think you left the wrong voicemail to the wrong person.
that would have been awesome.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
So, I don't know. What do you guys think? Should we call it? You
yeah,
guys
but
have
why
anything
did
else
you?
wanna-
What is this?
Yeah,
How'd you
what-
print it off?
Well,
Is this something
so-
that you wanted to like talk about? Or
Well, not necessarily. It was more for the joke. But
joke was terrible.
it wasn't that bad.
Okay, it was kind of funny. It was.
I wish the printout would have. I didn't realize it, but the printout didn't say like in prison for molestation, because that would have been, you would have gotten the joke, I think, a little sooner. But
Maybe I would have.
but part of that is like, oh, dude, there's a spitting image of you. Can you hold that up, Abby?
Yeah.
That
I don't.
looks-
I honestly can't tell the difference between the two of you.
Dude, what?
It's uncanny.
So, I mean, I got a video sent by my group chat about that, and then it was like looking at all this like symbolism in Disney that lines up with like pedophilia stuff.
Oh, am I in this group one?
I think so.
Yeah, the gamer one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Valhalla.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have time to look at the videos, but
You have time to look at
I have a little bit of time. But some of them are really funny.
Dude, yeah, I know I'm not on TikTok, but I get all my quality talks from that group. People just like screenshot it.
I think it's so messed up that a guy can be successful at a company, a VP at a company like
And
Disney.
then pull off some weird.
Like what?
Dude, I kind of want to tell one of Abby's secrets right now
Uh-oh. What do you got?
about the secret Instagram.
Oh,
Is that super top secret?
nah.
Are you talking about that time when Abby was a VP at a major corporation?
Yeah,
and molested all
that
these
is
children?
awful timing.
I'm sorry, it wasn't that timing. All right, it's cool. I thought it was. I thought it was one of the coolest Instagrams I've seen.
nothing
Did you
to
see
hide.
this when we were at the pumpkin patch the other day?
Yeah, the doors.
Yeah. So you just decided one day, like, you're a worldly and you travel all these places, and did you just like see one door and you're like, I'm gonna create this Instagram and just take pictures of all the doors of all the places that I go?
It's like you have a concentration.
Yeah.
Like, what is one thing that you always see everywhere you go that's consistent that you can take pictures of
Yeah.
and compare? And so I was just out here snapping doors.
Tell the
And-
people the name of your Instagram.
My Daily Doors.
Go check it out. My
Do
Daily
it.
Doors. Yeah,
I
it's
dare
cool.
you. And
Look into
eventually,
this camera. Say it.
My Daily Doors.
Now look into that one and say it.
My Daily Doors.
Awesome.
Eventually I had like hundreds of pictures of doors, and I'm like, maybe I should create an Instagram, but I'm just gonna make, my first thought was like, I'm gonna make these super long, deep captions and not tell anyone who runs the account. And then eventually I was like, I want to tell people about this account, so I'm just gonna post the doors.
Hey, look at my
It's
doors.
cool. It's very cool.
It is
I thought
actually
was
really
awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
It's very cool.
It's really neat.
It's really neat.
Hey, Matt, what about your records though?
I don't know. Are you willing to
Curveball.
share?
I guess I'll tell you guys my secret Instagram that I also have. Yeah, just post cool albums that I like. Not
it
really
called?
as cool as yours. Records _ things. Records and things.
Records
Do
and
the
things.
camera thing.
Records and things.
Don't forget the underscores.
Records _ things. Records and things. Check
All
it
right,
out.
Chris, your turn. What's your secret Instagram?
You just
Chine Productions.
he just posts a bunch of pictures of like criminals on one.
Yeah, all of Matt's uncles. Literally.
Touched Matt. November 14th.
Oh my god! Why does it always go to
Why
this?
does it have to be that?
I don't know, because it's, I don't know. Makes me laugh.
That's all that matters. We're just here to make you laugh. To make you laugh.
That's what all this is. I'm just a big fucking child. Look at this whole place.
Yeah, it kind of is.
It's like a
fun.
big- yeah,
I like to talk.
Yeah,
this is cool.
yeah.
It's fun to do. I mean, I like doing it. You get to talk about cool stuff. Like I got to talk to a guy from the UK today.
So how does it work? Like what? How? Who is the guy?
So he's got a podcast called Inside the Podcast Studio, and I met him on a Clubhouse meeting. So I went to this conference in August called Podcast Movement, and I met a guy. His name's Mark, and he's like a podcast producer, and he's like, dude, I've been doing this for a while. Like, let me know anything that you need. Like, I'll help you out. And so he invites me to this Clubhouse meeting, and it's like once a week, and you just kind of talk about different like podcast topics. It's like 4 podcasters, and so he was one of the other guest speakers. I just sent him a message like, hey dude, I heard what you said in this thing, like that sounds really cool, like can I have you on the show? And he's like, hell yeah. So I interviewed him, and it was really cool. He's a super cool guy. And
What
it's just,
was it that interested you that he said? Like what was the
so
topic?
like he interviews podcasters. That's one of his podcasts, and just like asked them about the behind the scenes stuff and things like that. And he said like a couple things on the meeting that were like just some of the things that he learned. And one of the things that he said he learned was like there's no rules for podcasting. Like there really is no rules. Like you can do whatever you want. And it's not about the downloads or the number of downloads or things like that. It's like if you've got 20 people that listen, but they fucking are good listeners, like they really like your stuff and they keep showing up, like fuck yeah, dude. That's like the important thing. And I was like, it's just the way he said it. It was like, it was made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
It's
when
art.
you just, yeah.
Like that's the whole point of art. Nobody has to follow my door Instagram.
No.
But to me,
But
it's
they
art.
do. You got a bunch.
Wrong.
Wrong.
You're wrong.
But that's like the beauty
Follow
of this.
my daily doors on Instagram.
God, do it.
Tremendous site.
But it's like a creative thing.
Yeah.
It's just so fun. Like,
Yeah, it's cool. Like, and part of it too is like you like this. You could just pour shit all over the place, and oh shit.
I haven't even looked at this.
It's messed up now.
Fuck, dude, we ruined the recording. No, it'll just break it up into like 2 things. But yeah, dude, like
It's like the third spill that's been in here.
I know. Matt spilled.
Thank God I finished. Oh, it's
I-
not
Matt,
finished.
I spilled an entire glass of water though, almost all over everything. It's okay
Puddles.
though. Yeah, I get it from Jenny.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's cool. I think that's
I'm
the
happy you're
primary
doing
thing.
something that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's so key. So key. Especially if you can like grow and be a podcast artiste.
So, all right, let's wrap this thing up.
All right.
Let's do it.
So, Abby, thanks for coming and doing this.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you
it.
so much. It
Guys,
was a
thank you
blast.
so much for having
learned
me.
a bunch today.
I
Yeah,
was
it was a
talking to
lot of fun.
myself so much today about like, okay, what do I want to convey? Do you read the thing that you wrote about Black Lives Matter or not? Didn't seem to go with the flow. Like,
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool.
it's fun. I'll come back anytime.
All right.
Come
So
back anytime.
We should do some more.
Yeah, no.
I mean, we could just talk even. They
Yeah.
are friends.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye.